Welcome to the EmpowerElle Podcast. I'm your host, Vero, and I'm so excited to have you join me on this journey of empowerment and growth. This podcast is designed for ambitious, high-achieving women who are ready to break free from overwhelm and step into their power. Together, we'll explore practical strategies, share inspiring stories, and hear from experts who can help you navigate the challenges of balancing ambition and well-being. Whether you're looking to cultivate confidence, transform your mindset, enhance your leadership skills, or find harmony in your life, this is the place for you. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the EmpowerElle Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here to learn about something that could shift the way you lead and live. Today's conversation is a little different. It's all about building a strong, healthy relationship with food without the guilt. So take a deep breath and let's dive in. Like I said, this isn't your typical episode, but it feels very personal to me because this is something that I have struggled with for almost my entire life. And honestly, for a really long time, I didn't even realize how much my relationship with food was impacting my relationship with myself. I went on my first diet when I was 11 years old. 11. And when I think about that now, it breaks my heart a little bit. Because at 11 years old, I should have been thinking about friendships and hobbies and having fun and discovering who I was. But instead, I was already learning that my body needed to be smaller, that my worth was somehow connected to my appearance, that food needed to be controlled, that certain foods were good and others were bad, and that my body was a problem to fix. Because that's all I saw around me. And from that point forward, I spent years stuck in this exhausting cycle of restriction, guilt, shame, obsessing, overthinking food, and constantly trying to change my body. I have lost and gained 50 pounds 3 times in my life. 3 times. And every single time I believed, this time will finally make me happy. This time I'll finally feel confident. This time it will stick. This time I'll finally love myself. But what I eventually realized is that even when I reached the body I thought I wanted, I still wasn't at peace. In fact, there was only one time in my life where I truly had the body I always thought I wanted. But I hated the lifestyle I needed to maintain to have it. And that realization changed everything for me. Because I started asking myself, what is the point of having a body you love if you hate your life? What is the point of looking a certain way if you're constantly anxious about food? Constantly restricting yourself, constantly obsessing, constantly afraid of gaining weight, and constantly exhausted from trying to maintain perfection. That is not freedom. And today, I can honestly say I'm about 25 pounds heavier than the lowest weight I've ever been, but I feel the best I've ever had. I love my body more than I have ever have. I enjoy my life. I enjoy food. I love moving my body. I feel healthy. I feel strong. And I feel balanced. And maybe most importantly, I feel at peace so much more often than I used to. Now, do I still struggle sometimes? Absolutely. I don't want to pretend I've magically healed every insecurity or never have difficult moments. There's still days where old thoughts show up. There's still moments where comparison creeps in. And there's still times where I have to consciously choose self-compassion. But the difference now is that food no longer controls my life. And that is what I want to talk about today. Because I know so many women are silently struggling with this, especially ambitious women. Women who are high achieving, who are disciplined, who are perfectionists. Women who are constantly trying to optimize themselves. And somewhere along the way, wellness becomes punishment instead of care. Food becomes stressful instead of joyful. Exercise becomes about shrinking instead of strength. And health becomes about obsession instead of balance. And I think that so many women are exhausted from living that way. So today, I want to have a very honest conversation about how diet culture impacts us. Why guilt around food becomes so consuming. What actually helped me heal my relationship with food. And how you can begin building a healthier, more sustainable relationship with your body and yourself. Because I truly believe that you deserve to feel healthy and confident without hating yourself in the process. So let's start with this. Most women were never taught how to have a healthy relationship with food. We were taught how to control food, fear food, earn food, restrict food, and obsess over food. But not how to trust ourselves around food. And that distinction matters. I grew up believing that being thin was part of what it meant to be successful, be disciplined, be desirable, be worthy. And I know I'm not alone in that. We live in a world that constantly tells women that their bodies are projects, that smaller is better, that more disciplined is better, less appetite is better, more control is better. And the problem is, when you spend years, decades hearing those messages, you start believing that your body is never enough as it is. So you spend your life chasing the after the next diet, after the next number on the scale, after the next transformation, thinking, then I'll finally feel confident, then I'll finally be happy, then I'll finally love myself. But confidence built entirely on body size is incredibly fragile. Because bodies change. Life changes. Hormones change. Stress changes. Seasons change. Aging changes things and priorities change. And if your self-worth is attached only to your appearance, your peace disappears every time your body changes. That is such an exhausting way to live. And honestly, I spent years in that cycle. I would restrict myself intensely, lose weight, get compliments, feel validated, feel successful. But internally, I was miserable. I was constantly thinking about food, constantly afraid of losing progress, constantly anxious about eating too much. and constantly trying to be perfect. And what usually happened? Eventually I would burn out, because restriction is not sustainable forever. Then the guilt would come, the shame, the self-criticism, the feeling of failure that I had let myself go once again. And I know so many women understand this cycle deeply. You start Monday motivated. You try to eat perfectly. Then life happens. You eat something that's off your plan. You feel guilty. You feel like you ruined everything. And then you overeat because you already feel like you have failed. And suddenly, food becomes emotional warfare. Not nourishment, not enjoyment, not connection, just guilt. And I think that one of the most healing realizations for me was understanding that food is not supposed to control your emotional state. Food is part of life. Food is culture. It's joy. It's connection. It's celebration. Food is comfort. It's memories. I love food. I genuinely love food. And for years, I thought that meant something was wrong with me. Because I thought that healthy women were supposed to effortlessly eat salads and never crave dessert and never think about food. But that's not reality. The problem was never that I loved food. The problem was the shame attached to it. Because shame disconnects you from your body. And when you live in shame, you stop listening to yourself. You stop trusting yourself. You either become overly restrictive or completely out of control. Because your relationship with food becomes based on rules instead of awareness. And healing that relationship requires rebuilding trust with yourself. Now, I want to be really clear about something. Building a healthy relationship with food does not mean never caring about your health. This isn't about just eat whatever you want all the time and never think about nutrition. For me, healing actually made me healthier. Because I stopped swinging between extremes. I stopped viewing wellness as a punishment. I started focusing on how I want to feel, what supports my energy, what helps me feel strong, what helps me feel nourished, what helps me enjoy my life. That is a completely different mindset. Because sustainable wellness comes from self-respect, not self-hatred. You can care about your health without obsessing over your weight. You can want to feel strong without punishing your body. You can enjoy nutritious foods while also enjoying dessert. And you can move your body because you love it, not because you hate it. And that mindset shift changed my entire life. One of the biggest things I had to learn was this. Restriction often creates obsession. The more you tell yourself you can't have something, the more emotionally powerful it becomes. And I lived that for decades. Foods became bad. Eating became guilt. Enjoyment became shame. But when I started allowing balance instead of extremes, food slowly lost its emotional power over me. And that didn't happen overnight. I think sometimes people expect healing to look perfect, but healing is messy. There are moments where I still overeat, moments where I still judge myself, moments where old patterns show up. But over time, I started building consistency instead of perfection. And when those old patterns show up, I don't tell myself that I screwed up, so I should give up. I just make the right next decision. And consistency changed everything. I started moving my body in ways that I genuinely enjoyed. Even if I enjoyed movement my entire life. It used to be subconsciously because I was trying to punish myself. Because I was trying to earn food. And movement started feeling exhausting. And now it's empowering. And I think that that's another important conversation. So many women have disconnected from movement because exercise became tied to shame. Burn calories, shrink yourself, fix yourself. Instead of celebrate your strength, support your mental health, feel energized, feel capable, feel alive. Now I genuinely love moving my body. I love feeling strong. I love feeling healthy. I love feeling capable. And ironically, I became more consistent with movement once I stopped using it as a punishment. Because punishment is not sustainable motivation. Self-respect is. Now, let's talk about body image for a moment. Because this is deeply connected. I said earlier that I have hated my body for most of my life. And I know that's painful to say out loud, but I also know so many women understand that feeling. So many women spend years criticizing themselves, picking themselves apart, avoiding mirrors, avoiding photos, hiding, comparing, waiting to feel worthy until they lose weight. And that is such a heartbreaking way to live. Because your life is happening right now. Not 20 pounds from now. Not after the next diet. Not after you fix yourself. Right now. And one thing I realized over the years is this. Hating yourself does not create lasting confidence. You cannot bully yourself into peace. You cannot shame yourself into self-love. And honestly, some of the women I know with the quote-unquote best bodies are deeply unhappy. Because body image is not just physical. It's emotional, mental, psychological. You can be thin and still hate yourself. And you can also be heavier and genuinely feel confident, strong, joyful, and at peace. I know because I've experienced both. And today, even though I'm not at my smallest, I feel more free than I ever did when I was obsessively trying to stay there. And I never want to get to my thinnest again. Because freedom matters. Enjoying my life matters. Feeling mentally healthy matters. Having energy matters. And feeling present matters. I'm so passionate about this. And I think that many women are sacrificing their happiness trying to maintain unrealistic standards. Now, that doesn't mean that you stop taking care of yourself. For me, healing my relationship with food actually helped me take better care of myself because it came from love instead of fear. I eat nourishing foods because I want to feel good. I move my body because I enjoy it. I prioritize health because I value myself, not because I'm trying to earn worthiness. And that difference matters more than people realize. Now, I want to talk about guilt specifically, because guilt around food is exhausting. And many women live with it every single day. You eat something, you immediately feel guilty. You tell yourself you'll be better tomorrow. You compensate, you restrict, you overthink. And the emotional weight becomes heavier than the food itself. And one thing that helped me tremendously was learning to remove morality from food. Food is not a reflection of your character. Eating dessert does not make you bad. Eating perfectly does not make you superior. You're not worthy because of what you ate today. And I know that sounds simple, but when you've spent decades tying food to identity, it takes time to unlearn. Another thing that really helped me was allowing flexibility. Because extreme rigidity creates rebellion. That did not come out well, but you know what I mean. Being extremely rigid creates rebellion. When your entire life revolves around control, eventually your mind and your body push back. Balance creates sustainability. And I think balance is deeply underrated. People often glamorize extremes because extremes create fast results. But I've had fast results, and it's not necessarily healthy results. It's usually not sustainable results. The healthiest relationship I've had with food came when I stopped trying to be perfect. When I allowed myself to enjoy meals, to celebrate, to travel, to go out for dinner, to have dessert without spiraling emotionally afterward. Because life is meant to be lived. And honestly, food has become one of the joys of my life again, instead of a constant source of stress. That feels incredibly freeing. Now, I also want to speak to the woman listening who feels stuck in this cycle right now. Maybe you feel frustrated with yourself. Maybe you feel ashamed. Maybe you feel like you've tried everything. Maybe you're exhausted from constantly thinking about food and your body. I want you to know this. You're not broken. Your struggle does not mean that you lack discipline or willpower. Many women are trapped in cycles that were reinforced for years through diet culture, shame, perfectionism, and unrealistic expectations. Healing takes time. And healing often starts with compassion, not more punishment. So if you're trying to build a healthier relationship with food, I want to leave you with a few things that help me. First, stop chasing perfection. Perfection is exhausting. Perfection is unsustainable. Perfection keeps you trapped. Focus on consistency instead. Second, start paying attention to how you feel instead of only how you look. Energy matters. Strength matters. Mental health matters. And joy matters. Third, find movement you genuinely enjoy. Not movement you force yourself to do because you hate your body. Movement that makes you feel alive. Don't move because you think it's going to make you thinner. Move because it makes you stronger and happier because you enjoy it. Fourth, allow food to be enjoyable. You're allowed to enjoy food. You're allowed to celebrate. You're allowed to have balance. You're allowed to eat without guilt. And finally, work on speaking to yourself with compassion. Because your body has carried you through your entire life. And maybe instead of constantly criticizing it, it deserves some gratitude. Now, I want to give a shout out to Your Way Weight Loss because this is where I learned everything I talked about today. And it's the program that allowed me to love my body, to enjoy food again, and to have freedom. So if this episode resonates with you, I cannot recommend them enough. Now, before we finish today, I just want to say this. The relationship you have with food often mirrors the relationship you have with yourself. And healing that relationship is about so much more than weight. It's about freedom, peace, trust, self-respect, balance, and joy. And while I still have moments where I struggle, I can honestly say I no longer want to spend my life at war with my body. I want to enjoy my life. I want to feel strong. I want to feel healthy. I want to go out to dinner with the people I love without anxiety. I want to move my body because it feels good. I want wellness to feel supportive, not consuming. And that is the healthiest place I've ever been. Not physically, emotionally. And I think that matters more than we realize. So if you're on this journey too, I hope this episode reminded you that healing is possible. Not perfect, but possible. You do not have to hate yourself into becoming healthy. You can build wellness from self-respect instead of shame. And you deserve a life where food brings nourishment, joy, connection, and balance, not constant guilt. So I remind you to keep choosing yourself, your vision, and your values. That is real power. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning into the EmpowerElle Podcast. I hope today's episode inspired you and gave you practical insights to help you navigate your journey as an ambitious, high-achieving woman. Remember, every step you take towards building your confidence and embracing your full potential is a step closer to creating the life you truly desire. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. Your support helps us reach more women who are ready to step into their power and live their best lives. Don't forget to join our community on social media for more resources, tips, and inspiration. Until next time, lead with power and live with wellness. You are unstoppable.